Welcome to the next episode of The Heart TV. Today we have with us Mo Gawdat. Welcome.
Thank you.
You're author of Solve for Happy and Chief Business Officer at Google X. You speak a lot about finding a purpose and mission, and you defined your own mission to make 10 million or more people happy. Can you share any tips for organizations or leaders that are trying to define their mission or purpose?
Oh yes, I can. The mission has just gone up actually. So last week we announced 1 billion happy. So the target, the 10 million happy target was, I don't know, I actually thought it was significant, but then somehow I think the world has been conspiring to spread the message. So just last week I announced 1billionhappy.org and an attempt to have chapters everywhere in the world that scale the work beyond my own abilities to get more and more people happy. The interesting thing is that this as a personal mission, I would say the most interesting thing about it is how I ended up here. I mean, if you really think of how I took my path in life, until just 4 years ago, if you had asked me what's your purpose in life, I would have said my purpose in life is to help startups in emerging markets find the kind of scale that we find in advanced markets. And I completely internalized that. If you want, I went through the process that we do when we set mission statements for businesses. And yeah, I was wrong. That wasn't my life purpose. It was my sort of personally enforced life purpose. But then life played in a different way. And it just reminds me of something that my son has taught me. My son was this very peaceful, very wise young man, and he constantly would try to point out the things that we tend to believe in as we go through the modern world that we live in, but that are not entirely true. One of them is the concept of purpose, which I have to say is a very Western view of the world. You know, the assumption that we're here to make a difference is very real. The reason we are in this life form is for us to make a difference. But the assumption that you can make that choice of what difference you're going to make when you're 17 and then chase it the rest of your life is actually not true at all. So in Ali's view of me, he basically said, look at sushi chefs. When you go to a restaurant that serves sushi, the master chef will ask you to fan the rice for 7 years. And then eventually one of the fanners will end up being the chef, right? Not because he trained to make sushi, but because he trained in discipline and showing, perseverance in learning things, in observing, and so on and so forth. We tend to look at life purpose as I'm going to set it and then I'm going to chase it. In my current view of life, I think my life's purpose is to become the best at whatever it is that I'm doing. And whenever I get to that point where I'm really, really, really good at what I'm doing, my purpose will show up. It's not the other way around. And so now my current purpose for the last 8 months of my life has been 1 billion happy. It wasn't startups anymore, and it probably is never going to be startups again, right? To get to that life purpose required years of investment in developing my happiness model, followed by a drastic event in my life that shifted my direction. But now, for the first time ever in my life, I feel that I'm delivering on something that truly is my life's purpose.
You speak a lot about happiness, and I am surrounded by managers that complain or struggle with being surrounded by people that are happy with the status quo so far. Do you think that leaders' responsibility is actually making people unhappy with status quo to some extent, or dissatisfied and hungry for improving the world or improving the products or improving the organizations? Or is it actually the opposite? Or
I totally disagree, right? I actually believe it's totally the opposite. So part of the residual of our school training and our model of parenting in the modern world is that we learned to be motivated by the negative. Okay, that we score an A in school because we're afraid our parents will say you're not good enough. We try to be the first of the class because we're competitive, right? These are negative motivators, and they do work. I mean, don't get me wrong, they deliver results. Positive motivators deliver even more results. And happiness truly is not a luxury. The reason why Google has all of those slides and game rooms and we offer sushi for lunch or whatever, that's not because we're stupidly generous, right? It's because There is a merit, there is a productivity gain, there is a positive impact of working with happy people, right? That impact is sometimes measurable, down to the dollar, and sometimes it's just understood, right? So let's just, make it clear. To offer sushi for lunch is much cheaper than 1.5 man-hour a day of people leaving to go to lunch, right? When you think about it, if people are sitting in a nice place with their colleagues, what they talk about is happy, is work, right? And if they're in a happy mode, they talk about it positively, and that makes us come up with some of the greatest ideas we've ever come up with in 20% timers who chatted over something with friends and then took initiative. That's very, very measurable. That's actually not a lie at all. Other measurable, statistics are, people who are happy are 12% more productive. People who are happy have less absenteeism. They cost us less in healthcare, or they cost their employers less in healthcare. They stay longer. Their retention is higher, so their cost of hiring and rotation is lower, and so on and so forth. These are not luxuries. This is actually the right way to motivate. But we have managers in the world and we have leaders in the world. Managers will try to manage by control and fear and greed and other negative emotions. Leaders will set a joint vision, a joint target, a joint purpose, and those who believe in that target will show up and will not need to be motivated. They're motivated by the mission. So, when we used to speak about the 10 things we know, what we use for the 10 rules we use for innovation, one of them was set a clear mission that your team aspires to. If you're building a company that's about, making the next photo sharing app, good luck finding people that will be motivated to do that. But if you're building a company that is trying to solve a big problem that some people are motivated about, you're going to find it hard to send them home. They'll come to work, they will not need you to motivate them. They're going to put all of their effort in it, not because they're paid a salary at the end of the month, but because they believe in the mission, they believe in making a difference to the world. And as they do that, they're happy doing it. They don't feel forced to do it. If you have to force your team to do it, then you have to reconsider why. Why is it that they're not that excited to do it without me pushing them through the negative incentives?
Maybe the mission needs revisiting then.
It goes down to the mission, and it goes down to the match of the mission to your hires.
You've worked for many years helping to turn such missions or moonshot projects within Google that Google has defined into sustainable businesses. Can you share any of the secret sauce, how you turn such great ideas or visions into businesses?
I've had the pleasure of starting almost half of Google worldwide, and then I worked at Google X, where I ran the business side as chief business officer, where we build moonshots. But I also am a serial entrepreneur, so I co-founded more than 25 companies in my life. And the idea of turning a great vision into a reality is a lot of execution. Of course, we know that. But there is also an element of what is the great vision. So most innovators today, they focus on the product. What can I build? How much money I can make out of it by selling it to how many people? Surprisingly, what people don't really notice somehow is that this is not at all the way Google works. Even though there is always, noise around, what is Google doing, and how does this impact on my life? The truth is, search is a massive contribution to our universe. If you've ever lived in Kenya and you didn't have search in Swahili, and then search showed up in Swahili, you understand. There are tens of thousands of people a day that are saved just by searching for the word heart attack in so many places around the world. The reason why search is producing so much money today is because of what Larry Page calls the toothbrush test. Search truly solves a big problem for billions of people in a way that they depend on it once or twice a day. You're bound to find success, you're bound to make a lot of money. And that truly is the key ingredient at the beginning of your vision that actually can make that vision become much more impactful in the long term. Assuming that we all are going to execute well, okay? The choice of which vision you plan to focus on for a long time is very important. And what I ask people to do, not only because I believe in the system we follow, but also because I believe our world needs it, is to focus on the problem. if you keep all of your focus on the problem, you will be a lot more flexible in your execution around which technology you use, what solution you need to get there, what resources you should behind it. All of that becomes a lot more dynamic when you come to the execution. If your focus was, hey, I'm going to develop a product, but I have to code in Python, good luck.
You fall in love with your idea, and
you
then
fall in love with your idea. If you focus on the problem, you start to build that flexibility, sort of the ability to navigate and shift and move around to get to solve the problem, and eventually make a difference to all of us as you make a lot of money. The reason we hire business managers is because of a need for business management. Every corporate that's successful today has a product line that needs to be protected, right? That product line basically requires more don'ts than do's to ensure continued success, right? If you're Unilever and you have one of your brands successful in the market, you tend to overprotect the brand colors, the brand image, the brand behavior, the brand promise, you have to control all of that because billions of dollars are coming in. There is no way that makes sense for you to be able to do all of those guardrails and protections and guidelines and be innovative at the same time, right? The only way you can become innovative at the same time is to get another group of rebels, okay, who no one really cares about, to sit outside somewhere and do the work.
And
experiment. And experiment, right? Give them 1%, 2%, 9%, whatever, of your product budget, right? And tell them, hey, by the way, as long as you remain within the budget and as long as you deliver something every year or two, we're happy to let you be, okay? And none of the bureaucrats, none of the business people that are designed to build bureaucracies. Bureaucracy is not a bad thing when you're protecting a cash cow, right? None of those has any say or even interest to go and look at those guys. But every now and then, those guys will come up and say, hey, I found this, which can be your next big business. That's amazing, right? You can do that in-house by building a few separate competing, innovation hubs, if you want, or you can do it in the outside. You can go scout other ideas that relate to your business, or work with the heart, right? And have them scout for you and find you things that fit. The only thing that people need to understand is this: if disruption of businesses used to happen every 50, 20, 30 years in the past, it now happens every 4 to 6 years, right? It will be even shorter. Product life cycles and the ability to create new technology is just incredible. Will there be something that reinvents our internet within the next 10 years? Of course, right? I mean, look at what mobile did to the internet in the last 10 years. It's very unwise to think that the protectionism of our business units in terms of, the cash cows is enough, okay? It's also very unwise to expect that the cash cow will also be an innovator. So we might as well just build those separately with enough autonomy to build.
Thank you very much. It was great having you.
Yeah,
Thank you very much.
Same here. Thanks for the opportunity.